Hi, thanks. Thanks first for the introduction. This is what you do for evangelism, you know. So, thanks everyone for being here. My name is Fabio. I run an educational project focused on Bitcoin called Checkpoint Bitcoin. If you speak Italian, you can open the website and you will understand what it's about. So today we are going to talk about Lightning Network, okay, which is a very important development for Bitcoin, but also for those who like to have a useful way of interacting with technologies and services, let's say. So let's start with two facts. How many of you have heard that Bitcoin transactions are slow? How many? Raise your hand, please. Yeah, okay, that's relatively true. How many of you heard that Bitcoin transactions are expensive? All right, that's also relatively true, because Bitcoin transactions settle every 10 minutes, which can be a lot of time in a few circumstances. And Bitcoin transaction tends to be expensive, and with the growth of the network, they will be even more expensive. So we need to scale Bitcoin, and the Lightning Network is the solution, is one of the solutions to scale Bitcoin. So let's start by saying that Lightning Network is not a cryptocurrency, is not a blockchain. Lightning Network is an overlay protocol. I need to change slide. Okay, so it's an overlay protocol, which means it's a protocol that builds on top of another protocol, right? So this is not something new in technology. This is something that you are already experiencing anytime you use the internet. But we don't talk about all the protocol involved. We talk about the internet. And Bitcoin is going in a similar direction. So you have the main protocol, the Bitcoin network, all right? The Bitcoin as a sound monetary system that is open, decentralized, secure, censorship resistant, and all the other things. And on top of it, there are other protocols that are going to scale it and make it more useful for our daily life. So what Lightning Network does is basically two things. It allows fast transactions and cheap transactions. So we have sorted this main issue that everyone heard of it here. So what Lightning Network is a network, all right? So it's a protocol built on top of Bitcoin that allow this transaction to happen very fast and very cheaply, okay? In Lightning Network, as a convention, we talk about Satoshi, which is the smallest fraction of Bitcoin. So 1 Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshi. So as much as 1 euro is 100 cents, right? So, but as a Lightning Network entails small transaction, actually also bigger transaction, we refer to them to Satoshi, and this is named after the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, so how does Lightning Network work? So how do we manage to have fast and cheap transaction if Bitcoin is as well? How do we do it? What is happening? What is going on here? Okay, I'm going to try to explain this in very simple terms. This is not a technical speech, so let's try to make it. So in Lightning Network you have payment channels, which is a fancy term for saying that two parties agree and commit a certain amount of Bitcoin to have this transaction. So Lightning Network, I forgot to say, that is built on top of the security rules of Bitcoin. So it uses its security rules to create a network where you can have this transaction, and they are actually Bitcoin. Okay, is not something else. So you have these payment channels, which are an agreement between two parties. They commit some amount of Bitcoin, and then they use this amount of money to have this super fast, super quick transaction. This is possible for one reason. The transactions are not shared with the network. So this transaction do not enter the block of a blockchain. They are only known between the two parties of a channel. So in this example, there is me and Ferres. We open a channel, we commit, I put 0.1 Bitcoin, and I am going to use this amount to transact with Ferres. I'm going to pay for him drinks and stuff, and I'm going to help him out because with the beer market I know he's having a hard time, so I need to pay for him. And after a while, after all these transactions that are happening between me and him, very instantly I would say, after a while, the balance is going to be 0.5 on my side, 0.05 on my side, and 0.05 on his side. So we are going to have this money flowing between me and him. So what happened is this. We committed the money in this payment channel with a regular Bitcoin transaction. After committing this money, we're going to have this transaction, and when we are done, because the halving is done, the Bitcoin is up, and he doesn't need my help anymore, we're going to close the payment channel, and the balance is going to split and go in the parties depending on the last balance, let's say, okay, so on the left amount. So if it was 0.05 and 0.05, there will be another blockchain Bitcoin transaction entering in a block that will give 0.05 to me and 0.05 to him. Okay, so this is how you make quick transactions in Bitcoin with Lightning Network, but now is the magic. Because I have a payment channel with the Ferris, but as I said, Lightning Network is a network and is a global network, so you are supposed to use it with anyone whenever you want, right? How does is happening? Next slide. Because we have this network where as long as someone is in the network and we have a channel, we can, as long as someone is in the network, even if you do not have a channel, you can send money, all right? So this is happening to basically with this kind of mechanism. I don't know if you have ever heard that you are like 8 person, you only need to be introduced by one person to another person to another person, and you can know anyone in the world, even the most powerful person existing. I don't know if you heard of this concept. Yes. Have you heard of it? So this is a similar mechanism. I don't need to, if I want to pay Julia, which is of course a random name, I don't need to have a channel with Julia. I only need to have a channel with Ferris, who will pass my payment to Eric, who will pass it to Antoine, who will pass it to Victor, and so on and so forth until it reaches Julia. So this way, we have a network of instant payments that can actually reach anyone in the network. And this is how Lightning Network works, very briefly. How confused you are from 1 to 10 now? No, it's not finished. Questions later. So I wanted to say that this is very confused, maybe, right? Yeah. Okay, you will tell later. So this was the confusing part. Now, okay, we have this network. We can do Bitcoin transactions very quickly and almost for free. But what do we do with it? How are we going to use this network? What are we going to do with that? And that's the next part of the speech. This is, I think, the most important part, because just as much when you use the internet, you don't know all the things that are happening. But you know that if you order food on Wolt, after 20 minutes you will get food, right? That's the interesting part. So this is what we're going to talk about now is exactly that, what we are going to do with this. But the next slide show you a bit some statistics and visualization on Bitcoin Lightning Network. As you can see, it's quite growing, maybe not in the third world countries, but we're getting there. At this moment, I took the screenshot today. There are almost 5,000 Bitcoin committed into payment channels, and this is a bit how things are going. But let's move on and have a look at what you can do with Lightning Network that is so cool. So, the first and probably one of the most important use cases are microtransactions. And microtransactions are, of course, transactions that are very small. So if you have a subscription with Netflix, with Amazon, or with Spotify, you're going to pay this amount regardless of how much you use them. You're just going to have this subscription. But Lightning Network takes this money, breaks it into very small fractions, and let you use it over the internet. Now it happened that since streaming of data arrived, since streaming of movie arrived, the movie industry changed. So you stream data, you download data, and this is how you watch the movie. Now you can do this the opposite way. So you download data and you pay for what you download, all right? So this will allow you to, instead of paying upfront, you will pay depending, you pay as you go, basically, all right? You pay depending on how much you consume of any kind of content. It can be a movie, it can be an article, and this is how you can use it. So this will be a new business model that will probably take place in a few years. So this subscription model will probably become obsolete, and you will not even realize that there is Lightning Network behind it. So let's move on. I know that there are many traders here, and I wanted to show you this derivative platform that is powered by Lightning Network. You can log into this platform with your wallet. You don't need to put an email and remember another password, or put the same password as the vast majority of people do. You can log in, you can put your funds on the platform, and your funds will be used only when you trade. So the advantage here is to reduce the third-party risk, because you don't put the funds on the platform all the time. You don't have the funds there. You have the funds on your wallet, in your control, and you can use them only when you trade. When you close the position, done. Money is again with you. So this is another use case. Another one that I want to show you is split payments. This is actually very cool, but I think it's easier to understand with an example. And we're going to make the example of a pizza. Let's say that after this speech, you're going to go and have a pizza, and you go to pay. What you can do with Lightning Network is making so that when you pay, your payment splits to all the parties that contributed to that pizza. So a part of your payment can go to the flour provider, a part of the payment will go to the owner of the venue, a part of the payment will go to the waiter, a part of the payment will go to the tax department. Okay, so your payment is broken, and it goes to the parties that provided you the experience. Okay, this is something that you can do with Lightning. I don't think you can do it with the current financial system, but that's why we have Bitcoin. And then, content monetization. This is another big one. I am actually using this on my YouTube channel, and it works, and it's very cool. So basically, any content creator can now put a QR code or something like that and receive money straight from the public. So let's assume you all have a Lightning wallet. You can scan this QR code and send me Satoshi, so the smallest fraction of Bitcoin. This is a very important thing for content creators, because they are no longer bounded by the platform, but they can directly interact with their audience, which is great. And this can happen in any kind of content. It can be a graffiti art, it can be a buskers playing the guitar, or anything else. Okay, and finally, how can you not talk about AI in 2023? It's just impossible, right? So Lightning Network can also improve the efficiency and I would say the way you use an AI. I don't know if you have tried ChatGPT, but sometimes it happens that you got this message, you reached your limit, you reach a limit of message, you got to wait, basically, right? This is extremely inefficient, and this is inefficient because AI business models, the bigger they become, okay, the more users they get, the more expensive their business is, all right? It's not like, I don't know, Facebook, the more users they get, the more money they can make it. It's the opposite. The more users they have, the more expenses they have. So this implies that they have to put this kind of payment of a fixed amount, and you get to go with it, but sometimes you meet this message. With Lightning, this is gonna change, because AI, you will basically pay for any prompt, for any request you make to the AI. So you can go with it, and this will be much more efficient. But it's not only that, because AI are not gonna open bank accounts. AI cannot open bank account, they cannot do KYC, they cannot do all this stuff. So, but they can open Bitcoin wallet and use Lightning Network. And this is probably what is gonna happen. Maybe in the future there will be, the chart I showed you before, we are gonna have more of, behind another one, this one, we are gonna have more people here, people that will not be people. There will be AI, all right? AI can use Lightning, and they can use that to interact with each other. So there might be the case that an AI requires information and data from another specialized AI, and they can negotiate and interact to each other because they're using Lightning, all right? So this is another use case, of course, it is growing, it's gonna happen. But now, the practical part, how do you start using Lightning Network? That's very, very, very simple. It's extremely simple, actually. You got to download a Lightning Network wallet. I recommend Wallet of Satoshi because it's the one with the best user experience, in my opinion, although there are trade-offs, but we're not gonna go there. You download the wallet, you fund it with a Bitcoin transaction, or with a friend sending you Satoshi, and then you can just use it. For example, you can scan this QR code and send a digital tip to me, and I will pay for Ferris' bad hard time. So this is a donation to Ferris in the end. Okay, so you can use like that. Otherwise, today we have also a little budget. So if you download a Lightning Network wallet and you want to start with it, I am gonna make your first Lightning transaction and you will receive some little funds. Do not think that much, but it will be something, all right? So, thank you. I hope you like this introduction to Lightning Network and you are confused enough to consider it. Thanks.
We have some questions, but my first question is, are you saying if I download the wallet of Satoshi on an Android or an iPhone right now, you are going to send me some Bitcoin?
Yes.
Oh my God, that sounds really exciting.
Exactly.
Does this go for everyone in this room at the meetup today?
Yeah.
The wallet of Satoshi in your Google's like Play Store or like App Store, and you are going.
Yeah, so as we all know, Bitcoin transactions are traceable. How traceable are Lightning Network transactions?
Okay, so this is something that I didn't talk about, but Lightning Network improves the privacy of Bitcoin because, as I said, there are the transactions on Lightning are not written on the blockchain, so these are by itself an improvement in privacy. So you transact, but these transactions are not written anywhere. It's not on the public ledger of the blockchain. So this is an improvement. There are, of course, other ways to spy on you. Okay, this time it's not about chain analysis, but it is rather on surveillance of networks interaction. So there are other techniques to understand what is going on the network, but it's already an improvement. If you know how to use it properly, you can really improve your privacy. You can use Tor, you can use other, other stuff to make your interaction more private. But of course, it's not the definitive fix, but is a good improvement from that perspective.
There's a question. You can give me the microphone.
Sorry, you cannot hear me because of the plants, but I think you can. Okay. So, if you don't mind, I have two questions.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is, it wasn't explained, but this line of transactions need to get from one person to the other. Everybody in the line has to have a certain amount of Bitcoin to cover the transaction. Otherwise, this line cannot happen, right?
Yes.
Now, what I want to ask is, because I couldn't find this information anywhere. The capacity of the Lightning Network so far is more or less 5,000 Bitcoin. What is the maximum capacity of a transaction that can happen? Because imagine, not everybody has
yes.
like 1,000.
Yes. Okay. Let's say that it is down to the liquidity of the liquidity of a channel. All right. If you this is one of the shortcomings of Lightning Network. At the current stage, there is liquidity if you transact with the big guy. Okay. So exchanges and other big players like Wallet of Satoshi is also a liquidity hub in a certain sense. And so in those cases, you can have a lot of liquidity and you can transact even 1 Bitcoin. Okay, so you can have an instant transaction. It happened of 1 Bitcoin, which is still $25,000. So it's a huge transaction. It's not a microtransaction. But on the edge of the network, it become more complicated because the channels might not have enough liquidity. So that's one of the issues. But there are some solutions that are growing depending on. There are some solutions going in that direction. So of course, Lightning is not perfect yet. It can grow. These days there is a solution, but has not been built yet. Let's put it like that. But it will exist at some point.
And just second question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go on.
So, as you were discussing, first layer is Bitcoin, second layer is the Lightning Network. I saw there is a lot of question marks. I'm also exploring this as well. Is there any option so far that somebody is working on that is going to be inter-blockchain operable? We're talking like, for example, the Atoms hubs, when you have like a way to communicate with different blockchains where you can actually get the liquidity on and off Bitcoin, for example, to Ethereum or somewhere else without the actual bridge. Is there something like that so far? Or?
There are currently some protocol that is trying to bring other kind of token, stable coins on and use them over Lightning Network. Okay, one of these is Taro, but they are still very young protocols, so it's not really. You can have a look on them, but they are very young and raw at the moment. So.
Can you give this guy the microphone?
So if I open an account and I transfer 1 Bitcoin to the channel, when does the transaction actually take place? Once the channel is closed, once it's open, is the Bitcoin held collateral?
Okay, now. Okay. So to open a channel, you do a regular Bitcoin transaction. Okay, but you do this transaction will require the other party you're opening the channel with to create a multi-signature address, okay? So you put the money on an address that is basically managed by both parties, okay? So there's no way that you can take the money off without the other party signing it. And when you and the other party are done with your transaction, you can close the channel and there will be another Bitcoin transaction that will that will close the channel and will give the money back to you and to the other party. And that's a regular Bitcoin transaction. Okay, so there are 2 regular Bitcoin transactions in the end. One to open the channel and one to close the channel. Then there are these transactions within the channel that are still valid Bitcoin transactions, but are not shared with the network.
Next question there.
Okay. All right. So, hi, Joe.
Hi.
So, I never really looked into Lightning so much. So
That's why we are here.
Excuse my ignorance. So, because historically, I always read that, well, the Lightning Network is not really the blockchains. It goes against basically the principles of why Bitcoin was created. So I never really took interest in it, to be honest, but obviously it was also a result of immaturity, maybe. So
yes.
today, I'm really happy that I attended this presentation, but I still have some doubts. So there are some trade-offs, right? You mentioned it, especially with this particular wallet. You said there are even more trade-offs because of this particular wallet, and I'm interested to know what those trade-offs are. And in particular, you mentioned that obviously, because this is happening on a separate layer, you don't have the auditability that you would have in a normal Bitcoin transaction because the transaction is not public. So you also mentioned something a bit more worrying for me coming from the legal perspective, that ultimately there's no traceability, and that is also could be a problem once you need to justify from where you got your Bitcoin. But let's leave that aside for now. So what are the risks of this network being manipulated by someone? Because something else I didn't understand. Who created this network? Are they monetizing in somewhere or other, or is there anyone monetizing in somewhere or other on this network? Because with Bitcoin, we know that miners are monetizing and they keep the network going. Who is keeping this network going, and how are they monetizing? Is there a risk that they manipulate it? Is there a risk that they will lose interest because they are not making any money out of it and close everything off?
Okay, wow. All right, let's start with the last question. Who is monetizing this? If first goes back to the slide with the routing, okay. So the point here is this: to open you have nodes on the Lightning Network as well, all right? And you use this payment channel. So anytime a payment moves from one person to the other, and then to the other, and then to the other, there is a little fee that all the ops will collect. So actually there is an economical incentive to run a node and have open channels here, because you can make money out of it, all right? So there is an incentive for the user itself. So the one who is monetizing is the Lightning node. Okay, Lightning node can monetize their liquidity and their capacity to connect with with other peers in the network. All right. So that's the mechanism. In Bitcoin, you have miners that are monetizing their effort with new Bitcoins. Here, the one who make the money are the nodes that route your payment. Okay, it's like if I want to give you €5, assuming, and I give it to her, who gives it to her. Let's imagine that each of them takes 1 cent. Then you receive your €5, but I actually paid 5.3 cents. Okay, so this is your first question. The second question was about the traceability. How it is secure.
And how it is secure.
How it is secure. It's secure because... Yes. Okay, yeah. There's no need to do any auditing here, because the money that is in the network, the money that is locked in the channels, are actual Bitcoin. So the auditing happen on chain when the parties commit their money. Okay, so all the money that is used here is derived from transactions that have been written on the blockchain and create a channel. So that's the auditing, if you want. Okay, and then in the channel there's no auditing, because you're using the money that is locked.
And how can it be manipulated in some way or another? That was my other question.
How it can be manipulated? There are mechanisms in place that prevent manipulation. For example,